Doctors have come from distant cities just to see me. Stand over my bed, disbelieving what they see. They say I must be one of the wonders God's own creation. And as far as they see, they can offer no explanation.
Here we are at the first ever International World Intersex meeting.
Woo!
Yeah. Wow. How does it feel to be here, Mani?
It feels absolutely incredible to have come all the way from New Zealand for the first ever gathering. Yep.
How did you find out about the Intersex Society?
I found out through a friend in New Zealand who had been to a conference here in New Zealand, and then I got sent a photocopy of the newsletter, and it was like the most, the memory of that was just absolutely incredible, of ending the isolation.
So you're intersex?
Yes, I am.
Thanks.
And more than that, I mean, through a process of working on this for 4 years, I identify as third gender.
And what about you, Angela?
I came here. I found the Intersex Society a couple months ago in April. This is August, September, and in April, a friend of mine in whom I'd confided some really sketchy details about my surgery and about my experience of my body. She had the newsletter Hermaphrodites with Attitude cross her desk.
Hermaphrodites with Attitude?
That's right, cross her desk at the Springfield, Illinois Center for Independent Living. And she somehow made the connection because of what she read there, that it might have something to do with me. And quite serendipitously, just a few months earlier, I'd gotten some of my medical records and had only recently begun to make any sense of them. So it all happened.
Are you a hermaphrodite with attitude?
I'm a hermaphrodite with major attitude.
Yeah.
That's right. So I'm thrilled to be here. It's incredibly momentous and awe-inspiring. I mean, think, the first time ever. Here we are. Like, we're not all here right now, but 10 hermaphrodites in one place. Has this ever happened before? I don't know. It's great.
Well, I'm incredibly happy to be here. I found out through a local article in San Francisco and started getting the newsletter and finally started feeling a sense of identity that I'd never really felt before. What I felt was an identity of isolation, mainly. And so changing that to being mirrored by people.
What did you feel isolated about?
About my hermaphroditic status, about my ambiguous genitalia, which I'd never found anyone who had a body like mine. And the only time I had someone in the medical establishment refer to it, it was in a shaming, patronizing manner. I was just trying to find out through personal experience, through a friend who's a gynecologist, like whether or not she'd ever run into people like me, and had really come to feel that I knew that there were people like me out there, but I just didn't know what the chances were of ever finding them. It's not something you can ask somebody in any kind of conversations. So this has been, just like a turning point for my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, where do I start? Oh, it's really overwhelming to be here with other people that have just, found the group in, say, the last 6 months. I first made contact with ISNA in May of '95 through going to a speech in Oregon that Ann Fausto Sterling gave, and talked to her afterwards, and she passed my information along to Cheryl, and Cheryl got a hold of me, and it was like, oh my God, the seclusion is finally over. It's like, growing up, I went to this went through this counseling program to help me adapt. It was more like brainwashing sessions to make me accept that I'm a normal little girl whose ovaries didn't develop properly.
Is that true?
No. I'm a 35-year-old male pseudo-hermaphrodite whose testes did not develop properly in utero, and therefore gave me an undetermined sex, ambiguous genitalia birth. And of course they sat there and ran their blood tests and then basically lied to my parents and coerced them into letting the doctors perform, plastic surgery and giving me female hormones at puberty, and basically encouraging me to believe the lies that the doctors were telling me all this time.
Doctors lied to you?
Surprisingly.
Someone called Ted Capo.
Oh my God. But it's, and it's been really hard. It's like,
Put you on cable.
But, they lied to me and telling me that I was a normal little girl. They lied to me when they told me that my ovaries hadn't developed properly. And so there was just this great amount of shame. I remember them removing my penis when I was 5.
They removed your penis?
Oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't a penis, it was an overly large clitoris.
They removed your clitoris?
Well, they reduced it in size to more closely approximate a normal female appearance.
Does it approximate a normal female sensation?
No. At least not with the people that I've talked to. And comparing my erotic response with theirs.
How do you feel about the fact that was done to you?
At times, I feel like hiding in the closet, because it's like, how can anybody accept somebody who's been this mutilated and this, who can accept damaged goods? And at other times, I get so mad that I just want to get a dull, rusty knife and start hacking off other doctors' genitals and say, "Here, you son of a bitch, how do you think it feels?"
Wow. Well, what's your story, David? Heidi's telling us that she was assigned female. What did it feel like to be assigned male?
I never knew any different. I was always led to believe I was male. I was led to believe, mainly through silence, that there was nothing wrong with me, nothing I could talk about even. No one ever spoke to me at all about my state, my condition. And this is one of the amazing things about being here at this retreat, is to hear so many people telling my story over and over again.
They're telling your story?
Yeah, the pattern is so amazingly similar, and we all come from very different places and very different backgrounds and very different bodies, and yet our experience is remarkably coherent, and that I find that amazing and liberating, really, to finally find out that I'm not alone. It's extraordinary, really.
Did you have genital surgery?
I did, although it was not called reconstructive surgery or anything like that. I had a gonad moved And I believe I had hypospadias repair, although I have no record on that. I was never told anything about it. And in fact, even though I believe I've recovered all the medical records I'm probably ever going to find, they still really don't say anything, which is I think, kind of remarkable. Either through a profound state of ignorance, which I find hard to accept, or denial. I recently had one of my doctors say to me, well, why, not why, but perhaps they didn't want to make an issue of something that they felt they could do nothing about. Of course, there was a lot they could have done about it. They could have at least told me about it.
So with Heidi, they lied to you, and with you, David, they just didn't tell you anything?
Didn't tell me anything at all. And they lied in the way that when I asked for information, they denied that they had any information, and which I still find remarkable, actually.
What would you do if it was your child?
Love them. Love them. What else can you do? I think first you have to love someone. Then if changes are going to be made, that's something different.
My name is Max, and speaking of babies, along with Leslie Feinberg, I'm really looking forward to the day when a child is born. People put a, I don't know, yellow sign on the front lawn that says it's a baby instead of it's a boy or it's a girl. I want anyone hearing this, watching this, to know that for intersexuals to come together is an incredibly powerful and moving and especially healing experience. And the doctors who told me that it would be inappropriate for me to talk to other intersexuals were just plain wrong. And I want anyone watching this, be they historians or doctors or intersex people, whomever, I want you to know that we are just the tip of the iceberg. We are 10 people gathered together in Northern California, but it's just the beginning, and I can just feel how this is going to grow, and we're going to change the way that we're treated. The way that the way that we were treated can never be changed, and we'll carry those scars with us. But we can make we can make the world a better place. As Leslie Feinberg wrote to me recently, a new world is in birth, and I really believe that.
Oh, grab, me too.
Not gonna hide.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm the real hermaphrodite. These people are all imposters. I didn't come here to be insulted.
Just hold it down here. It doesn't need to be on your mouth.
Okay.
It's right here. It's a clip-on.
Yeah, I've known Cheryl through correspondence for maybe a couple of years. I lose track.
Maybe 3 years.
Yeah. Came across one of her articles by chance. I'm a hypospadiac monster. And I went through a surgery thing. It wasn't my idea. But anyway, I was told it was a hernia. So actually, I'm really a hernia patient. So that's why they covered it up. But anyway, I'm glad this is kind of strange. I'd imagined these kind of I thought I was the only one, but I didn't know. Maybe for such a long time I was I knew there was something wrong. I mean, something that wasn't quite right. But there was it took me quite a while to figure out exactly what it was. When I got the word hypospadiac was dropped inadvertently, my parents. So after looking it up in the encyclopedia, it referred me to the M section, which under monster. I said, ah.
What would you have liked them to do to you?
Nothing at all. Just left me alone. I wish people would have just stopped helping me. But anyway, it was a... I'm still not sure what the intentions were, whether they're really just mistaken good intentions, or sometimes I feel like my parents were like people who cut off the legs of their children that they might stand taller in the eyes of the world. They were always impressed with their position towards people outside their public image. Kind of sorry to think that, but anyway, this is a little strange. I'd imagine I'd be meeting some people like me eventually, and may have come about.
So are these people that you feel are like you?
Yes, I do.
I was gonna say,
They're all crazy.
when I was talking to the doctors this last Christmas season, and finally got the honest-to-God truth from them, part of the original diagnosis, other than having a undetermined sex, part of the problem was that I had micropenis that was also hypospadic. And so it's like I had 3 strikes right there. I had a too small penis that had a hole somewhere other than at the end, and I had feminized, a more feminine looking, partially fused scrotal sac than having this nice little healthy, penis and scrotum and testes and everything that was all where it was supposed to be. And it was like, why? Why do they insist on fixing things?
So what would you have liked them to do for you? What would you do for a child who's born like you?
I would leave them the hell alone unless there was a proof of dire consequences if some kind of intervention wasn't taken. Let them, don't let them grow up to like 5, 6, or 7, and then all of a sudden start mutilating their body and taking things away that they've grown accustomed to having. But of course they removed my testes when I was 7 months old because, well, due to possible future cancerous, growth, and there's also in my records where it says, and also to prevent a possible masculinizing puberty. Like, oh my God, we can't have this little girl that we're brainwashing into thinking that she's a normal little girl growing up and hitting puberty and all of a sudden becoming a boy. It's like they need to deal straight with the parents, deal straight with the kids when the kids start asking questions, and stop the lies.
Did you have something to add to that, Money?
Well, I'm just sitting here realizing that this is a historic moment, and this is about breaking the secrets and lies. I was born in 1953. My mum had lost 3 children, and I was the product of her being given male hormones, and there was a intravenous transfusion of the hormones. The first words that were uttered by the attendant nurse when I was born, because it happened in a hurry, was, "Oh my God, it was hermaphrodites." So I was actually labelled the only time, the first few seconds after my birth. I was born with both a penis and what everyone assumed was a vaginal opening. I've only actually found out just this year that it wasn't. It was a urogenital sinus. I was raised as a male child for the first year. That was common practice in New Zealand then. And my sex was identified as was many hermaphrodites. Do you want to hold this for a second? That was the test to see which gender I was going to be assigned. And because males can't have uteruses, my sex assignment was changed to female. I did not have the surgery, however, to change or feminize that part of my body until I was 8. It was done in a hospital in total secrecy. I was taken there and dropped off by my parents, who did not tell me why I was in hospital or what was going to happen. It was done in a male ward, but I was in a little tiny room off the side of the ward. Before the operation, I don't know how many doctors and people come to look at the freak, and I was taken into a teaching theatre, not sedated, and the surgeon who was going to do the operation on me actually did it and explained to everybody. I'd been raised in a family where I was not allowed to talk about it, where I was not allowed to show anybody, and the confusion of lying there on the table with all these people looking at me. I've had other operations. I have had my ears removed and reduced in size and made smaller. I have had operations on my face to feminize me. And for the people who watch this film in the future, I just hope that by the time some years has passed, that this practice of mutilating little children stops, and that we're allowed to live who we are, unmutilated, and we make the decisions about how that's going to be. And I want to thank this person here who is responsible for all of us sitting here on this rug here in California this afternoon.
Actually, I have a question for all of you. You know, you've told us that you were treated very badly, it sounds, by your doctors. Were these doctors who didn't have any experience with intersex? Or is this the way that specialists treat intersex children?
I believe in my situation, I was probably one of the first operations performed in New Zealand, but I know that nothing has changed, that exactly the same procedure is being deployed right now.
How about you, Angela?
I can attest to how the doctors that I were taken to in Peoria, Illinois in 1985 was first my pediatrician, who referred us to a pediatric endocrinologist at the University of Illinois Medical Center in Peoria, who I now know studied under a doctor, another pediatric endocrinologist at Northwestern, who had himself studied under the illustrious John Money. So there's you can see the genealogy where, there's John Money, and he taught the next generation, and he taught the next generation, my doctors, who are women. And so this Hopkins is where this all comes from, this whole practice. And so it's like straight from the top. You know, this is not unusual that I had my clitoris taken away from me without my knowledge.
Well, they say that they just make it smaller.
That's what they say. I didn't have any measurements at the time. I didn't present any physical ambiguity until I was 12 years old. I was assigned and raised a girl, and when I was 12, my clitoris started to grow, and I knew that other girls probably weren't experiencing exactly the same changes in their bodies, but I experienced it as normal anyway, and like I said yesterday, which is very difficult for me to say, I not only noticed its size growing more prominent, but I loved it. You know, I had this wonderful relationship with it. I think of that time that I had maybe 6 months before surgery, from the time that I noticed it and started to love it to the time that it was taken from me, is like this time in the pleasure garden before the fall, you know. That was 1985. It's only 11 years ago. Yeah.
I wanted to add.
This is the specialist.
Hi, my name's Hida, and all the stories that people are telling show how there has been a very deliberate effort, very deliberately institutionalized effort to alter occurrences in people's anatomy and how they're born. And I was fortunate enough to somehow escape surgery. And I just want to say, hearing Angela's story, it's my body has been one of the things that I've had the most positive feelings about my entire life. Just throughout my childhood and as my body developed, I always felt extremely comfortable in my body, liked the changes in my body, loved my clitoris and the other aspects, never minded not having large breasts or any of that. And the only problems, the problems that I have experienced have been around this need, living in a society that has a need to polarize gender into male or female, and the constant subtle and at sometimes not so subtle pressures to conform to that polarized notion of gender, which has been ideologically naturalized. And the word normal comes up a lot, and I like to not use that word because finding this group is just affirming what I was coming to know just from information. The Five Sexes article was one of the first things that I read, which finally spoke to my reality. What I experienced as gender was not a polar male or female. I really didn't feel that my body fell into the categories that I read were male or female, and that is that were, assigned normal status. And although I felt very happy with my body, I've always also, just for the medical establishment out there, had excellent health. Doctors have frequently commented on how good my health is. Very, very rarely get sick or anything, but it's an aside. But I don't know, that's what I want to say to anyone listening who has escaped surgery and to those who still argue for surgery, that the problem is not with the child. The problem is with the attitudes toward the child. And even before as I said, it was a gynecologist who first mentioned that I wasn't normal, that she should perform tests on me because of my clitoris size and that something was going on that was not normal. And she had a very discriminatory attitude toward me, which is very easy for me to perceive. She wasn't friendly. She wasn't acting like a provider who was interested in my best interests and my care, emotional, psychological care. She wanted to fix what she considered a technical abnormality. And so I strayed away from that. But as I've been telling people, every other reference to my body, from my first exposure to the word hermaphrodite, to people's comments, people noticing differences, has been very positive for me. Unlike what, psychologists or psychiatrists think will happen. It's my reality, and I love my body and myself. And what people need is to have that reality accepted and not, medically, surgically removed or ideologically removed. So that's what I want to say.
I just like to say that all the people that I've talked to as an adult, of course I didn't have the option of talking to people as a child since I didn't have anything to talk about that I knew, have been very supportive and very accepting, and I have not met yet a single person who has shamed me or hurt me, which is kind of a remarkable thing, because of course that's what we always imagine will happen if you tell anybody, that you'll be so unacceptable. So that it's very encouraging. If you speak the truth to people, usually they respond. Certain people, the right people.
The people that treat this insist that it would be unthinkable to leave somebody untreated with the intersex condition. But here we all are talking about it and embracing it and even appearing on video. I think it's really amazing.
It is amazing.
And I was going to say, and another thing that people need to realize is that in this mad rush to correct this freak of nature, doctors are currently performing genocide. They are eliminating a race of people who are born different than others. And people get up in arms when they talk about the genocide of Hitler and the insane bullshit that Napoleon did, and I mean all of, you know, Idi Amin, and just listing all of these mean, evil dictators who were really corrupt, we need to take a look at what's happening in our own backyards, at the people that are being silenced and eliminated, not so much by being put to death, but by having something removed from their bodies that sets them apart as being different. And it's just, like I said, at times I just get so frustrated and so angry. It's like I want to go out and kill something, but that's not going to fix the problem. And so I need to redirect that anger and that energy into a more constructive form of activism. And the stuff that we've been planning this weekend is like, I can't wait.
I guess I'd like to address what you're talking about being in the midst of a genocide, and I agree that we're not being killed off physically, but there is something vital that's being taken from us, and I know from the experience of my very own body that I know the really wonderful sensitivity that I had before surgery. I'm talking, in terms of genital sensation, and the tremendous orgasms that I had before, and how that experience, as I remember it, is even different from how other women have explained to me their experience of their bodies. And I use that phrase, other women, in a really kind of precarious way. And so it's very painful for me to think of how, to conceptualize that what's been taken is a very specific eroticism, like a hermaphroditic eroticism that must really scare people and really cause a great deal of anxiety. And it's just a really special part of whatever culture that we have developed individually and are bringing together. That special part, our sexuality, that sacred sexuality, has been ripped from us. And I don't want to say, I'm wary of saying that I don't have the kind of genital sensation that I did, because that doesn't mean that I don't have great sex. It does in fact mean that I have a not as reliable sexual response, and but most importantly, it means that very special form of sexuality and arousal and all of that was uniquely hermaphroditic was taken. And that's the crime.
Newspapers ask intimate questions, want confessions. They reach into my head to steal the glory of my story. They say